So salty, I'll still take a bite. Okay, you can take my Lambo. I'll put on a tight show. You sure you can handle? We be faster than Jacob. So salty, I'll still take a bite. You can take my Lambo. I'll put on a tight show. You sure you can handle? We be faster than Jacob. Stop.
And welcome to this live stream, this benefit to help people who have lost their positions in the hospitality business. Folks, we are here to make a difference, and I want you to click on the link in my YouTube. What you'll find there is you'll find an information source from Pinhook. What you're going to do is you're going to sign up there, and you're going to get information about how you can get this barrel pick. Now, what we are doing tonight is actually unprecedented. I've got a league of all-star bourbon tasters from around the country, and I'm telling you, some of the best palates in the business, and Kenny Coleman from Bourbon Pursuit.
Thanks. I love that intro. That makes me feel real good.
I love you. But we've got this incredible cast of bourbon personalities, bourbon palates, and what we're doing is Pinhook is donating the proceeds from this barrel pick that we have tonight, and to the James Beard Foundation for the relief fund that's going to the people who are impacted by COVID. So this is an incredible venture for us all. And now what I want to do is I want to go around the horn and introduce you to our tasters. Going to start with Blake from Bourbonr.
Yeah, so I appreciate you playing my new single as the intro music. Much appreciated. But yeah, no, it's great to be here. This is really great cause. And anytime you get the invite to taste some 12-year-old MGP, you don't say no. So thanks for having me. I'm Blake from Bourbonr. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of that. So again, thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. Blake, you're also the retailer for this, and
yes,
Seelbach.
Yep. So it'll be coming through Seelbach. So the dozens of emails that I received today after announcing this tasting, I promise we will have more information later. So it's a good sign, though.
Yeah, it's always good to have people interested in what you're doing. And of course, my good friend Clay Risen from the New York Times. Clay, how's it going, my friend?
It's going all right. We're keeping busy here in the city, here at the paper. But let me tell you, I've been looking forward to this for weeks. This is just to be here with all these fine folks and get to taste some of, look, anytime I get a chance to taste Pinhook, anything that Sean has blessed, I am very happy. And I'm actually a little intimidated having to pick one of these.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
These are going to be fantastic.
Now, if there's anybody who needs a drink on today's cast, it's definitely you.
I've held out all day just so I could keep my palate fresh. So did it for you.
Love it, man. And now to Carla Carlton, best editor in the business.
Well, thank you, Fred. Glad to be
look
here.
At that backdrop. Look at that.
Yes, I'm here in my rick house where I have been weathering the COVID crisis. Yeah, so Fred and I work together at Bourbon Plus magazine, and I'm surprised that he's still inviting me to do this, but I'm glad because I changed his copy. Not a whole lot though, but really glad to be a part of this. I think it's a great service. I know a lot of restaurants and bars are really struggling to stay afloat right now. So I'm really glad to be part of this and help out in any way we can.
And up next, someone whose palate I always read his reviews, Jordan from Breaking Bourbon.
Sure, this is Jordan from Breaking Bourbon. I am super excited to be here. Right with the moment Sean told me about this charity pick that he wanted to put together, we were all in. I think this is a great cause that we're raising money for, and I'm super looking forward to all three of these barrels to taste. I think they're all going to be great, and I think whatever bottle we pick is going to be a true winner for everyone at home.
I can't wait. Now, what are you have a lot of friends in the restaurant business. What does something like tonight mean to you, Jordan?
I think, it's really special that we're able to come together and find a way to help raise additional funds for them, especially everyone going through these trying times. I know the service industry has been hit especially hard. So to come together to raise money, I think it's fantastic. And I really a great opportunity that we're able to be involved in. So pretty special.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And next, Peggy No Stevens. You all know her as the Bourbon Hall of Famer, founder of Bourbon Women and master taster, the first master taster in Kentucky bourbon history. I know her as my son's godmother. Peggy, how you doing?
I'm doing great, but I've already blown it. You sent me 3 beautiful barrels, and I was not supposed to open it. I just found that out today. I've been sipping on them all weekend. So apologies in advance, but I'm way ahead of you guys.
Glad I'm not the only one.
No, but I will tell you what I haven't blown is that I am cheering on the James Beard Foundation tonight, because if you're a bourbon lover, you're a foodie. If you are a foodie, you are a James Beard lover. I have worked with the James Beard Foundation and have had events at James Beard House for years and years of my career, and it is such a worthwhile cause. Even though I've blown it, you don't have to blow it. Everybody donate.
And now I teased a little bit earlier, but I've always said that Kenny has the most, one of the most underrated palates in the business. He doesn't like to give himself any credit, but he does love the oak note. So Kenny from Bourbon Pursuit, are you going to be looking for the oak note tonight?
Oh, that sweet oak has definitely got to be there for me. That's my nickname. I got it tattooed somewhere on my back. If you come find me on, strutting along the beach after this is all over, you come find it. But to really echo everybody else's statements tonight, I mean, this is a great cause. Cheers to Sean and the entire Pinhook team for making this happen, and Fred as well for you for setting all this up with the logistics and making sure that we could all come together and do this, and really rounding out with a bunch of really well-known individuals that you see here on the screen here tonight. Very fortunate that I'm actually able to be a part of this as well. And honestly, I'm really looking forward to letting Sean kind of tell the story of these barrels and really what makes this so special to our audience tonight. Because when I read the backstory on it, about the journey that they'd gone through, it's even made me really anticipate going through and tasting these. And so I'm glad I didn't pull a Peggy Stevens, and I actually waited, and I've got the first one waiting right here. So I'm just just kind of really ready to jump in. So let's roll through these intros a lot faster. Let's get going here.
All right. Well, I don't want to say that I'm not going to be pressured by Kevin to run through these. This next person is very special to me. She was writing about bourbon before most of us were legal to drink in the 90s. Susan Riegler, I think, is one of the greatest whiskey writers of all time. Welcome, Susan. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing terrific. Thank you so much, Fred. That's very, very kind of you. And I have also resisted this week. I have taken the tape off my bottles, so I'm in pretty good shape. I'm going to pour here in a moment. But again, thanks so much to Pinhook and Sean and the James Beard Foundation. I've been doing everything I can to support my local restaurants by getting takeout and getting liquor through them, which is legal in Kentucky. Thank you to our governor. And it's just been a really amazing few weeks. And I really encourage other people to support their local institutions that way, because it's very, very important. We want our favorite restaurants to be open when they're able to be open again. We want them to be there. So I'm very, very honored to be here, and I'm really looking forward to tasting these bourbons. I mean, the color of these bottles is just wonderful. So I'm looking forward to it very much. Thanks.
And now we're going to find out why they're so special and what they're all about. I'll give it to you now, Sean Josephs, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Fred. And excuse me. We all want to get to the tasting, of course. But first, just want to take a moment to thank you, Fred, for hosting and really pulling this whole thing together. And I have not been actually lucky to taste with a bunch of the folks here. So I'm really excited because I definitely cheated. I mean, I've been tasting these barrels since 2011 and a little bit more recently just to see where they're at leading into this. And I think we have some good options, and I'll just be super curious to see where everyone's palates are and where we land. But just a quick background first and foremost, I wouldn't be sitting here if it weren't for the restaurant business. So that's where I started. Started as a food runner, worked my way up to server and back server, studied wine, became a sommelier, which ultimately, it's kind of my wine studies led me to fall in love with bourbon, which led me to open a bourbon focused restaurant. So I spent the last 15 years in the restaurant business. My wife is still a restaurant owner. She has a restaurant called Tia Paul in New York, which is temporarily closed. And with any luck, we'll get on the other side of this summer when she will celebrate the 16th anniversary of the restaurant. So supporting the James Beard Foundation, and specifically them directing funds to independent restaurants and their employees is something that, obviously hits incredibly close to home. When I did get a wild hair with my two founding partners, Jay and Charles, and we decided we wanted to try our hands at buying some barrels and blending. This is back in 2010. Took us till 2011 to buy some barrels. We started by buying 20 barrels from MGP. At the time, the going rate for 3-year-old bourbon was $465 a barrel. So think about that in the context of what is happening now. So of course we have subsequently, purchased additional barrels. We now distill at Castle and Key, but there are only 3 barrels left from the original 20 that we purchased in 2011. So these barrels have a lot of meaning to us. I certainly hope they taste good, and that's of course important, but just also for our company and in trying to think of a way to do something positive during such a difficult time, kind of look to the thing that we have that's the most valuable, which frankly are these 3 barrels, and to donate them and try to raise as much money as we can. And so part of what will also make these special, or the selected barrels so special, when we started the company, we had a different bottle shape, which is nicely called the Alice, because Alice Peterson is our CEO. Pure coincidence. That bottle shape was discontinued. We also originally bottled with letterpress labels. And so we do have some of the original bottles left. So we are going to bottle this in the original bottle with the original label. Bourbon Courage is the horse that was connected to our first release back in 2014. It was a 6-year-old bourbon. And so this is truly going to be a unique bottling, unlike any other that we've done. And so I'm going to say something which is maybe a little overly ambitious, but I really want to see how much money we can raise here ultimately when these bottles are available. I want to say something outlandish and say, let's see if we can raise $100,000. There are a lot of bourbon lovers out there. This is something pretty unique. So let's see what we can do. So I'll pass it back to you, Fred. I know I could talk about all this stuff for a long time, but I know everyone wants to taste. So
that is true. Everyone does want to taste, but let's take a little bit more look at the liquid in here. Sure. Are all 3 of these the same age?
Yep, they're the exact same age. In fact, they have the exact same fill date of January 28th, 2008. So this is MGP, 75% corn, 20.5% rye, 4.5% malted barley. The barrels were shipped as 3-year-old barrels to Bardstown, Kentucky. We originally worked with strong spirits. Mm-hmm. So the barrels aged there in Bardstown until we shifted things over to Castle and Key in 2017. And so at that point, the barrels were shipped from Bardstown to Castle and Key in Millville, Kentucky, where they've aged the rest of the time.
All right. So there you have it, folks. 12-year-old bourbon on the line tonight. Now, for the tasters, or for the people watching this through the various streamings. Now, we're streaming right now on Twitter, Twitch, several Facebook accounts, and YouTube. The only questions we are monitoring at the moment are on YouTube due to some back-end software stuff. So if you have questions for us, please go to the YouTube link that's provided in all of the stream devices right now. Click on that and you'll go right to us. If you can't find that, just go to my YouTube page, just search my name, Fred Minnick, and you should see it streaming live. But that's how we'll be able to answer the questions. And speaking of that YouTube page, the pinned comment at the very top will take, there's a link there that will take you to the Pinhook website where you can sign up to get more information about the bottle and basically enter to win to get one of these bottles that you will purchase through Seelbach. And of course, you can go to Seelbach's website as well. Now, tasters, we have a very important job to do. This is a job that we're doing for America. We're doing it for the people who are hurting right now. This is serious. Like, we're really trying to raise money, but more importantly, we got to pick the best bourbon that we think is best to us. So each one of us are going to taste, and we're going to do it in the order of 13, 19, and 20. Now, 13, if you don't have it labeled 13 on your glass, it is the batch number T1 P7. 19 is T2 P13, and 20 is TP P14. And I'll just go ahead and show the.
You making TP jokes because it's COVID? Is that why?
That. And yeah. I mean, Hey, Sean, what would you trade in the amount of toilet paper for one of these?
Oh my God, that's worth a full truckload right there for sure.
So this is a truckload of toilet paper. So
absolutely,
we kid. So for those viewing at home, this is what the bottle looks like. These are the samples that we got. These were sent to us a couple weeks ago, and as you heard from Peggy, some of us didn't follow directions and not drink.
It was really hard to thieve the whiskey out of those. But I did it. I managed.
I didn't know we were allowed to bring props.
Yeah.
Somebody would have told me I'd bring props. I would have just grabbed a lot of stuff.
Right?
I'm in the warehouse. This is right here. Yeah.
Well, let me roll in a barrel really quick.
There
I
you go.
feel like
All right. I wasn't paying attention. So what was number 13?
13's number 1.
Is that T2 P13?
13 is T1 P7.
Aha, there it is. Okay.
So you'll see 13. You'll see the number on the right where it says SIN, SIN. And then the batch number is some people got batch numbers, and so they're different. So we all got different sample bottles. 19 is T2 P13, and 20 is TPP 14. And actually, tasters, are we clear on what we're tasting now? Anybody have any questions about what we're tasting?
Well, let's get through the first round, and then we'll try to do another quiz after that.
Fred, I have a question. Do we get bathroom breaks?
Sure. Yeah, we can do that.
Oh, good.
It was actually in the email. Everybody's supposed to be wearing their adult diapers as we go.
Oh, right. I got it.
I'm always wearing my adult diapers.
But
I'm glad I'm not alone on this one.
Yeah.
No, it's Zoom, so that might be preferred.
Some people might not even be wearing pants.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I'm protesting already because I've just seen some of the bottles y'all have held up, and you definitely got more than I did. I don't know, Fred. Was I asked last to do this or something that y'all ran out?
No, I knew that you would probably start cracking into it early. So I told Sean not to give you a
minimize it. Yeah.
And that way we would have less of a chance of you drinking it all right off the bat.
Peggy should have gotten fifths.
Yeah. Well, the barrels are, if you think about it, everything that we have here tonight is taking away from a bottle that can be sold to
good. Guild. Thank you, Fred. Guild. Okay.
Yeah. Sean, has anybody shook the barrels? Do they sound full? Do they sound half full?
I know I'm partially tempted. I don't want to lead anyone in any direction because we've definitely had some. I think the only other barrel we dumped that was close to this age was a 10-year-old, and we only got 79 bottles out of it. So I'm a little more optimistic to get more like 120 to 150 would be nice, but fingers crossed. But hey, if the yield is low, then I guess the bottles will just be more expensive, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. I mean,
that's what everybody loves to hear.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's more expensive for a good cause. So
$1 million a bottle.
I mean, the nose is great.
Yeah.
Ooh, nice.
So Sean, let's put yourself on your head right now. So
Yeah.
you had mentioned when you first started here that
Legs
you
on that thing.
bought these barrels for $465 and they were
Yeah.
3 years old at the time, correct?
Correct.
I think MGB's like latest price book, like a 3-year, you're looking at I think it's like what, 1,000 or 1,300, something like that. So if you could go back in time, I mean, are you kind of like kicking yourself a little bit, thinking like, oh, we should have?
Yeah.
Everybody always thinks like, oh, we should have bought so much more.
Oh yeah. Well, I remember specifically because after we bought the first 20, then we bought 2 more times in very small amounts. And I remember the last time that I bought, that we called them to buy, the guy that was our contact at MGP was like, hey, these barrels are running low, which sounded like the ultimate like sales bullshit thing.
Yeah.
Like, if I was you, I would grab more. Like I would grab whatever you can. I mean, obviously in hindsight, if you look at the value, and I think to your point as well, Kenny, yeah, that price right now has dropped a lot. I think the 3-year price for a while was pushing, $3,500, even $4,000.
Yeah, I think you're
Now
probably
I
right.
think
I was probably being too generous,
but it's pulled back. Yeah, I think more like between $1,300 and $1,800. But yeah, I mean, the smartest money at that time would have been to pull the trigger on a couple thousand barrels at $465 a pop, and have that much 12-year-old juice right now would be pretty valuable, to say the least.
Sean,
What were you thinking back then?
Uh,
What was when you were buying those barrels? What was did you feel like this is going to go on forever, or what was kind of running through your head then?
I think that one of the luxuries we had in the whole experience was that I opened my first bourbon bar, Char Number 4, in 2008, and no one cared. There were no cult bourbons. No one cared about Pappy. None of that stuff had started to happen. And even when we bought our first barrels in 2011, I kind of have in my head that 2012 was when things really started to pop and like the Pappy thing started to explode. And it's the easiest example, but the whole thing really started to pop. But during the time from when we first purchased the barrels and kind of conceived at least of the idea that we wanted to make bourbon, or more blend bourbon, we didn't really see, I'd say at the time, some huge opportunity, right? Otherwise we would have, of course, as Kenny was suggesting, bought a bunch of barrels and tried to be way ahead of it. And instead we really took our time. And I think that was, to be honest, like the ultimate luxury is we really spent 3 years from when we bought the barrels to our first release, which to me isn't just important that we released 6-year-old bourbon, because I actually really enjoy younger bourbon as well, and younger rye. But it was more just that we took our time and we didn't feel pressured to come up with a story or an idea. And we were really just spending time in Kentucky. One of our founding partners, Jay, one of his best friends from high school grew up in thoroughbred horse racing. So it was really spending time with this Jamie Hill, our friend, in Kentucky, and going to Keeneland, going to Churchill, having all these amazing experiences around horses that kind of brought us to a unique way of bringing thoroughbred horse racing in Kentucky, together through bourbon. And so it was really just this long labor of love and a lot of fun, which is what bourbon is all about, of course.
I had some great nights at Char Number. I still live pretty close, and had some great nights at Char Number 4 back when you could get some of those great bottles.
Yeah.
Not too expensive. Wonderful times.
And Clay, the food was so good at Char
It
Number.
was. Yeah, you guys had a really great program there. Really, really blended with the bar up front and the dining in the back, and just a really nice setup.
So some background for folks there. Char Number 4 was kind of like this, that was Sean's restaurant. And that restaurant was really before its time, before there were bourbon bars everywhere, before everybody was making grits and having country ham and biscuits. Char Number 4 was in Brooklyn, and it was probably the best like whiskey related, concept of the time. And, then you opened Maysville, and, and brought that down to the Flatiron area. And yeah, I just miss those places.
Yeah.
So Sean, you said that you were last in Kentucky on what, March?
Yeah, it was the week of March 2nd. That was actually
March 2nd.
Yeah, it was a huge week for us.
Do you wish that you were sheltering in place here?
Yeah, I like your back.
Like in my rick house here?
It looks pretty good. Although, so I live in New Orleans, and we've actually, I mean, the one thing that's been really lucky, we've had pretty beautiful weather for the last 4 weeks. So we've been lucky that I could take my kids to the park, and it could be a lot worse for sure.
So Sean, how often do you go back and revisit these old barrels? How often do you pull a little sample for yourself just to taste?
Not
Yeah, I was
that
about to say,
often.
you go back and you're like, maybe we're not going to sell these after all.
The last time I tasted these was about a year and a half ago, and I haven't
Okay.
tasted them since. But
How about your coworkers? How often are they?
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
This could be something about a little barrel shrinkage if everybody there is tasting.
Yeah, exactly.
Make sure
Yeah,
still
maybe it's not a
good.
leaky barrel. It's a different kind of seepage.
Uh-huh.
John, what proof approximately are we drinking right now?
It's a really good question. The barrel entry proof is 120. I've definitely seen, and I know this is true of barrels that age at MGP, that they do tend to drop in proof. I don't have enough experience with the aging at Castle and Key to really make a determination. But when we dumped, I think it was like a 10.5-year-old barrel, which was from the same lot. I think we're at like 116, 117. So if I had to guess, out like anomalies aside, I would think we're in that like 114 to 118 range.
We're going to bottle these barrel proof.
Well, they'll be bottled. Thank you for asking. Yeah, bottled at cask strength, unfiltered.
Great.
Yeah.
I was thinking that everybody that's here, we could all do a Price is Right kind of thing, and basically guess the proof without going over, and we'll figure out here in a few months who wins.
Oh, that'd be fun. Of course, it's going to change. It's going to change. And those barrels, by the way, historically, that warehouse, that it would go down. A few years ago, you might remember there was a wild turkey product that came out. They said it was cask strength, and it was like 86 proof or something, 88 proof or some kind of funky proof like that. And no one believed him, but it's true. The proof goes down in some of those older warehouses like that. So here we are. We've all tasted 13, the first one for us to sip on. I'd like to go around the horn, kind of like we did from the intro, and have everyone just kind of give their quick elevator thought on it. And I'll start with my boy Kenny.
So with this one, I think I pulled a Peggy. I started going through every single one of them already, so we can just act like that didn't happen. So on this one, I'm still getting a lot of like pepper notes off of it. It's definitely very peppery. I tried to just write something down. I was coming off here. Now the finish it's not going as long as I'd want to. It kind of falls off. However, I think like the one note I'm kind of getting off there is definitely some black pepper, some cracked pepper sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. All right, Peggy, the class cheater. What are you picking up?
Yeah, she's had all week to think of this. So
yeah.
Well, weekend. Be fair.
Oh, sorry. It's quarantine.
Essay.
We don't know if it's Tuesday or if it's Friday.
No, I liked the complexity of this one. To me, the nose and the taste are very grain forward, like the high corn, like a corn pudding almost. And the sweetness of it was not like a heavy caramel. It was more like the topping of a creme brulee.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the one that I got caramel apple. If I were to pick a fruit, I definitely get some apple notes, some deep red, delicious apple notes, and absolutely black pepper, hands down black pepper. So nice complexity.
So we have black pepper twice now being dropped. I too picked up black pepper. Jordan, what about you? Did you like this? Did you pick up a little black pepper?
A little bit of black pepper, a little bit of tobacco and leather there, some classic, I thought the palate was good, right? Classic bourbon notes there. Finish, kind of like Kenny, wish it would have hit a little bit longer, but really tasty so far to start things off.
Clay, how about yourself? What do you think of this one?
So, especially after it opened up a little bit, let it sit, I was getting really nice off the nose, kind of a bright fruit and kind of vanilla cream note. So, some raspberry, almost candy there. Now to me, when I first took a sip, it's pretty strong right up front, sort of tapered off a little bit, definitely picked up some of those bitter notes, like, some tobacco and some leather, dropped off like everybody else said, but I did have this residual kind of butterscotch that was there that I really liked. it's sort of buttery butterscotch sort of thing. I liked it. Probably would have liked it to be a little rounder, but it's a little sharper toward the end. But perfectly, wonderful way to start the night.
Carla, I know your palate pretty well. This is one of those that I'm on the fence here. I don't think you like this one.
I agree with what a lot of people have said so far. I thought the nose was really nice. I got a lot of vanilla, and I picked up cherry, but that bright fruit note. I didn't find all those flavors in the taste of it. It was very peppery, I thought, and I thought the finish was short as well. A little bit astringent. I got a little bit of nougat in there too, I think. But it has great legs. I thought it had a great mouthfeel, but the finish just kind of dropped off. I expected it to last longer based on.
So if you were giving this a rating, where would you put it on a scale of 1 to 100?
We don't give ratings, Fred.
We're not talking about Bourbon Plus, but I'm talking about Carla Carlton here.
I don't know. It's hard. I mean, I hesitate. It's always hard with the first of the three because I don't know. I don't have anything to compare it to yet.
Fair.
Probably like high 80s.
Okay.
Yeah, I just felt like the nose gave me an anticipation that wasn't really fulfilled. I guess is what I felt.
Now, Susan, you and Mike Veach did. You wrote a great tasting notebook. Break this down for us like you would in the book.
Well, I will, Fred, but the first thing I have to do before I do that is I have to put on my my Bourbon Women ascot that I have, just so I could be really official in this tasting. How's that look? Is that good? Is that good? I had to cover up Great Aunt Florence's pearls for that. So there we are. So there's my Bourbon Women ascot. And well, I will say that I agree with Carla. I got some cherries. And I actually got a little bitter chocolate in the nose as well. But I absolutely understand the leather tobacco. And I concur with the rest of the panel that it just stopped. It was a very quick finish on this, but still a lovely nose, lovely palate, but didn't last long. I did put a little water in it, and that was good. It opened up a lot more fruit, so I would recommend that. It'd be good.
Yeah, this one is. I will concur with everyone's.
Did I get skipped over on my tasting notes, Fred?
Oh
no, that's actually intended.
Yeah, that was on purpose. I see how.
Fred has a short attention span.
You're the retailers. You have a conflict of interest.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
I'm kidding. No, I totally accidentally skipped over you.
Totally did it on purpose. No. After going against or after all these great palettes, I feel like mine aren't needed. But yeah, I would agree. And I think we're all splitting hairs because put this against anything else and it's fabulous bourbon. But it does lack a little on the fruit side. I was expecting a little more fruitiness out of it, and I almost get like a interesting like circus peanuts, if you remember that candy at all. It's like a low sweet but kind of cream vanilla-y. A little bit of that on the palate, but it just fades away. Not a whole lot on the finish, but yeah, that's was my notes.
Okay. Well, I think Clay was the one who brought out some tobacco notes in there. I got tobacco and the pepper really strong. Also, a little back end banana. So, yeah, this one was probably, this one. I'm excited to see what the others hold because this is.
Fred, what would you give this if you were rating it?
If I were rating it, I'd probably, in the first taste, I'd probably be in the mid 80s. I'd be in the mid 80s. I mean, it's good. It's not very good. It's good.
The only thing I want to add, since I think I cheated more than anybody else, and I think everyone here who tastes a lot knows that bourbons, rye, American whiskey, et cetera, opens up a lot over time. So mine, I got my samples early. It had a lot of air, and I'm with everyone on the actual, like the overall notes. I mean, this one to me, I look at them in like blocks of flavor, and this is the more earthy, tobacco-y, savory side of bourbon.
Right.
But I don't find it short. But again, I think it's unfair in a way for me to say that because I had a bottle that was, let's say, half full for 4 days. So it had a time to get a lot more.
You've been warming up on it.
Yeah, I was super curious about them. So
I will say that this is one of those. This is a whiskey. If you're in that mood for that flavor, you're picking it up. And it's a very that pepper note and that tobacco note very prominent for me. So shall we go to let's go to 19. And Kate, if you want to come on, we'd love to take some questions from the audience. If you want to come on and read them out to us.
Yes, 1 second. Let me turn my video on. We have a few questions. A question from Mark Erickson. He wanted to know why we left MGP if the prices got too high. So I think that's a question for Sean.
It's a great question. Really, Castle and Key presented an incredibly unique opportunity where it's actually friends of ours were the ones, specifically Will Arvin, that decided to buy the distillery. And I think, like a lot of folks that live in Kentucky, and if you've been in Lexington at all prior to the distillery being purchased, you could kind of scramble under the fence and just walk around this amazing piece of bourbon history. I mean, built in 1887, shut down in 1972, all these decaying buildings. It's a pretty spectacular place. And we had even knocked around the idea of possibly buying it ourselves. The entire thing was for sale for $850,000, 113 acres, 2 rick houses that one holds like 32,000 barrels, another holds 45,000. The castle is still standing. The spring where Colonel Taylor, the reason he picked the distillery or the site was because of the natural spring. So imagine this amazing historic place, and then all of a sudden a friend of yours buys it. And we were actually the first people that they approached because they knew they needed to do contract distilling in order to have a workable model. I think that kind of answers it. I mean, it was on the one hand, at the time, they hadn't even hired a master distiller. So we had no sense of, who are they going to hire and what's the distillate going to be like, et cetera. But just the opportunity alone at face value, we kind of felt like we had to jump, and we're certainly really happy we did.
Well, after tasting 19, I'm glad you did too. Actually, because I feel like this one right here has some Kentucky notes in it that they wouldn't have gotten in Indiana. Peggy, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. For sure.
Man, I don't want to sway anyone's opinion here, but 19 is really nice.
Yeah, it's good to say. I really enjoyed 19. I think this has got it actually made me go back to 13. And when I tasted 13, I get a lot of what Sean had said, a lot of that earthiness out of 13 now, that once you chase something completely different, you go back to it, you're like, okay, there's the note. So 13, I get some of that earthiness and a little bit of must kind of flavor to it. But this one is really good, well balanced. It really shows what a high aged bourbon would really get out of it, right? More oak, more tannins that sort of play out of it.
Yeah, I thought the structure on this was really nice. This is a really, big bourbon. There's a lot of, I got a little bit of astringency, but mostly just those big oak notes. But, the tannins and the alcohol really, for me, it works really well.
Yep, and the finish is completely different than 13 too. It's just a lot longer and lasting, and it just lingers. It's really good in comparison. This is
100%.
Classic Kentucky.
Yeah,
I love a robust whiskey. I think this is very robust and just loads of baking stuff.
Yeah.
In fact, after the three of you kind of said what you said about the whiskey, it's lingering, on the tongue. So it has a really nice finish, very long. Almost a little cayenne pepper, even.
Oh my!
If you like spice, I think this is really interesting and definitely lots of oak tannin.
If I can add one other thing, you said baking spice. I thought it tasted like Red Hots without quite the sweetness, but it's that kind of cinnamon.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a cinnamon Red Hot, but not the candy element.
Yeah, I got a little bit of fruit on the beginning, in the front. I keep getting cherries from both of these, but it quickly became so, and that may be playing into that Red Hot sort of flavor because that's a good description for the way it finishes. And I took Susan's suggestion and added water to number 13, which does bring the more of the fruit out, but ultimately it's still flat. I mean, this is just so much more well-rounded. Yeah, I really like number 19.
Yeah, and the fruit really carries on along the tongue. It just rolls right over the tongue on 19. It's really nice. And again, I added water to it just to try to bring that out, and it just goes and goes and goes.
Blake?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean,
No, he wanted you to be quiet. We wanted to skip you again.
Blake, quiet down. We can hear your mic. Yeah, no, I think of it as like it's like almost like a fruit cobbler. There's a lot of baking spice in there. There is a little bit of residual sweetness, but not overpowering, and just kind of rolls straight into the finish. And that's where for me the spice really comes alive. It's clove, it's cinnamon, it's that kind of thing, which is really nice.
Well, before we move on to 20, I think it's a unanimous 19 is pretty damn good.
It's really good.
Yeah. If I was basing it on the nose, though, I think 13 had a better nose. And I think that's why I was so disappointed in 13 because it just didn't deliver. I think 19 has a nice nose. I don't think it's as nice as 13, but it's there in the taste of it.
I think the 13 nose is almost like it has like a dusty,
a little bit
caramel dusty funk to it. Yeah.
Sean, what do you think about this one?
Especially
in comparison to 13.
Yeah, like I said, what's interesting is besides obviously tasting for single barrel identification, we taste every barrel that we blend. So I taste so many of the barrels of MGP barrels, and Jordan had kind of a fun, unique experience going through 40 barrels.
That was fun.
Of our stuff. And
that's a regular Tuesday night for
that's a regular Tuesday. Exactly. So I kind of look at it in these blocks, because a lot of times I'm thinking about, which is not what we're doing now, but how they're going to be blended or how barrels will come together. And so again, 13 is very much the earth side. And this has a lot of butterscotch to me on the nose, and then and grapefruit. And then I picked up a lot of what Clay said as well, kind of this candied cinnamon with that sort of cayenne spice that Peggy mentioned. So it's like, I say candied cinnamon, but it doesn't come across as super sweet. It really does come across as spicy. Yeah. It's just incredibly complex. It's got a lot going on. But I agree too with what Carla was saying. There's something kind of magical about the nose of 13, that earthiness that it has. But this one, I think the nose is certainly very pretty, and then it just delivers a lot on the palate.
As we're about to go to 20, folks, make sure you are going to the YouTube stream and you go to the comment section. That on the comment section at the pin, there's a Pinhook link. You can click on that and you can put in your information about how to make sure that you get on the list for one of these barrels. You can also go to Seelbach, and that's Blake Reiber's spot, where you can sign up and become a member there as well. Now, Kate, I think you have another question for us as the tasters move on to start analyzing number 20.
Yes, we do have a few more questions. A few of them are resound around how the barrels will be, or the bottles will be sold, if it'll be auctioned, and where they will be sold online.
I mean, Blake and I are actually due for a kind of side conversation about that. So I think obviously the primary goal here is to raise the most amount of money possible for the James Beard Foundation, and in turn restaurants and their employees. So I think following this, and of course, as Fred has nicely pointed out, you can follow via the link how to get further information. So frankly, Blake and I are going to talk about the way to get the most out of this.
Yeah,
so I don't know if you have
do
any
some
thoughts you want to share,
some
but-
straight sales, do some auctions. Let's play some squares.
Exactly. Let's do it all.
Well, that's a good point. Like we'll give everyone plenty of time. Like you're not going to miss out. We'll make the announcement of what and kind of what Sean said. The idea is to raise the most for James Beard Foundation. Like Seelbach isn't taking money off of this. Pinhook isn't taking money off of this. You know, we're the ultimate goal is to, you know, raise as much as possible. So while everyone will want to say gouging or whatever, it's like the goal is to raise money for a good foundation, and that's what we're trying to do here. So, but we'll give everybody plenty of heads up of if it's a auction or if it's a, you know, hey, it's going to be available at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. We'll make sure everybody knows beforehand, so nobody misses out that wants to get a bottle.
So there you have it, folks. 9 p.m. next Tuesday.
yeah. And if you don't see this, just go buy something else from Seelbach while you're there. And I'm sure.
As you said, Sean, it kind of depends on how many bottles the barrel yields too, right?
That's a factor too. Yeah.
That's a factor.
Now, Sean, do we, like, anytime I do a barrel pick, I always try to influence for another barrel, especially if I'm not paying for the barrel. Is there any chance that you'll do more than one barrel out of this?
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Glad to hear you say that.
It was like there's a lot of buildup there. It was easy.
Should have given a more like a dramatic pause there, Sean.
Yeah, I should have. That was poorly played. Sorry, guys.
We needed some more time.
We're going to sit tight. If you could send us 6 more samples of other barrels, we'll just keep going. You get generous.
I mean,
I'm counting on you guys too, right? Because, you know, the question too is, you know, do we feel like every barrel here, there's obviously one that we're going to pick as the winner, but hopefully we feel collectively like the other two, or at least one of them, are also, you know, worthy of being
in the mix.
Someone brought up a good question via text, and it was, will there be a sticker on the side label with, you know, like a goofy design or something like that? You know, that's what the people want these days in the bourbon world. They want their stickers. So
ascots out.
Yeah. Ascots.
I think you get some cool wax instead of a sticker, Blake. I think wax.
Cool wax. Okay.
Wax will fulfill. You get a nice wax bottle.
Jordan, can it be dripping wax?
Ooh, it can't be dripping wax, just nice wax.
Well, you know, in honor of the ascot, every bottle comes with its own ascot. Is that what we're thinking? Is that...
Yeah. Good luck with that packaging.
Maybe it's green wax because, you know, here we're all lighting everything green for COVID. So,
can you make a little ascot for the bottles itself, Fred? Can each bottle wear an ascot?
You know what? We could design something where every bottle has an ascot.
Because that'd be cool.
But I would rather commemorate this group here. I really do believe this is a group of Bourbon All Stars, and you know, Kenny's always good at making stickers. Maybe
I can hire out pretty well.
Kenny's good at outsourcing stickers. Let's be honest here.
Well, this is just a scarf. This is not an ascot, but I do have my bourbon barrel earrings on, so that's my.
Oh, very nice.
Carla, I have my bourbon barrel necklace.
Yeah.
Love it. I noticed Susan's already lost the ascot, so.
Can't make me wear an ascot, Fred.
It's still here. It's still here, Fred. I have it just in case there's an ascot emergency. I'm on it.
I am not wearing.
You never know when there's going to be an ascot emergency. That's
Exactly. Yes. When you least expected an ascot emergency.
So has everyone had a
like
chance to sip
ascot signal in the air, like bats.
Like the bat signal. Exactly.
I see the ascot from afar.
Oh, I like this nose.
These are all really pretty colors too, by the way. The color of this bourbon is beautiful.
Yeah, colors are fabulous.
Boy, that nose just jumps right on out. Man.
I'm going to tell you, I like this one. Fred, you obviously have shown yourself already on which one you want.
Ooh.
But,
I feel like this one combines, and I don't know if we tasted them in order because of this, but it combines what I love about, you know, the nose was a little better on number 1, and then the palate came through a little stronger on number 2. And for me, this is a combination.
I agree. This to me had like a blanket of brown sugar.
Mhm.
Right?
And some, did you get brown sugar?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like that
Yeah, for sure.
brown sugar just
Yeah,
get all up on you.
Just like deep raisin and fig and
Yeah, I get a lot of raisin.
spice
Mhm.
to it. So I had a nice layer of cinnamon. And so to me, anytime you can walk around the flavor wheel, that's great complexity.
Mhm.
Ooh, and it's doing the same thing on the palate. Very nice.
Mhm.
Mm,
Very smooth. This is very smooth for the proof level.
yeah.
It's extremely smooth. It's got a
Yeah,
little-
I had
yeah.
written white pepper down for number 19. I mean, it went from
Yeah.
black pepper to white pepper. This one, there's no pepper. I mean, this is very smooth.
Yeah.
There's still
I
the
agree.
baking spices, but there's nothing harsh at all about
Right.
these spices.
Oh, they're all sweet spices, lots of fruit, lots of vanilla, caramel.
Yeah, it's
Yum.
less tannic and
Yeah.
than 19. I think it's round, but but it's smoother. I don't know.
It's
I feel
more-
like 19 I really enjoyed, but I couldn't drink a lot of it.
Mhm.
20 I feel like I actually, no, just
20 could be
despite the proof,
dangerous.
I feel like I could drink a lot of it.
Yeah,
and not,
20 can be
not
dangerous.
get tired.
Yeah, in fact, a
Probably
few
fall
more
asleep.
sample bottles of this, Sean, would be great.
Yeah, I can't quite decide. I need another bottle to decide.
Yeah.
I think that's the only solution is, Sean, we're going to need another round of samples. We're
Great
going
I'm not a big fan of tannic. I don't like tannic wine. And I
Yeah.
did get some tannin from the first two. Here, it's more nuttiness. It's not,
Yeah.
Yes.
it's
Yes.
nutty. There's some like maybe almond or something. I'm not sure which nut, but it translates more into a nice nuttiness rather than an oak tannin to me.
Yeah, the almond is almost like marzipan because it has that smoothness.
I will
Yeah.
never say
Sweetness.
marzipan. That's
Marzipan.
Fred's trademarked word.
Hold on.
But yes,
That might-
Fred just got so excited that somebody said marzipan.
My German
bat
heritage,
signal went
what
up.
can I say?
Are any of you getting a finish if you've ever had true homemade caramel frosting?
Yeah.
Oh,
mhm.
yeah.
Iron skillet, the finish. If you really hang on to the finish, you get
Yeah.
a deep caramel frosting.
Yes.
It has
Yeah.
a lovely finish. It really does.
I think
Ooh,
Blake
yeah.
put it really nicely too, which is, and the order was random. I mean, in terms of the barrel stylistically,
Oh,
but it does incorporate, even though not in a way that's as obvious and noticeable as in 13 or 1, 20 still has that earth component, that leather component. It's just not as strong. So and I think Peggy and Carla and Susan were all getting at it, and Clay as well. It's incredibly well balanced across fruit, earth, spice, sweet, and it's kind of hitting all of those, as you said, the flavor wheel
Yeah.
in a
Yeah,
really
the
great
leather,
way.
the leather is like a wonderful new saddle leather.
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
really nice.
That's a
Whereas
math
13 is
description.
more like dark worn leather, right? It's a
Yeah,
different.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, it's
Different.
been on
Yeah,
a horse
there's-
for a while. It's really, really
There's
good.
there's no bitter note at all to 20. I mean, the other two had notes that were verging on bitterness to me, and there's nothing like that with 20.
I will
This is
say,
very
I do
smooth.
think that there is look, I think 20 probably is the best of the three, but 19, there's
Mhm.
a type of drinker and I think this is a good, hits a certain spot. It is a robust, dry bourbon.
Yes.
And, for people who like that and for moments where that's called for, I think this is an excellent one. I do think 20 probably is the, all round hits the right notes, probably makes for a better whiskey all over. But I know a lot of people who would love 19.
I agree, Clay. I think 20 is really, really well rounded and balanced, and 19's a little more boombastic, right? But
Did you say boombastic?
I did say boombastic. And you know what though? It's like it's this bold, it's this bold, powerful. It's this bold, powerful bourbon. The finish hits too, and you do have to be in a mood for it, right? Like right now, 19's hitting really well every night. Probably not going to be that way for me. 20 probably going to hit every night. Be really great.
I think
right?
the real tell here is that I did not feel compelled to put any water in the
Right.
Mm.
No, not at all. But I
20
did
was
put
fine on
water
its
in
own.
19. I did put water in 19 as you did, and it's really good with water.
Yeah.
It was good with, I think it as you say, it's a certain type of drinker, but when you put the water in, it really does smooth out the rough edges and bring the fruit forward. So I don't know if anybody else tried that, but
Which I think this is kind of the fun conversation with a lot of barrel picks is like, oh man, we really like how this one's unique and different, but this one's also a little more drinkable. It has a little more broad appeal, and so I can't tell you how many barrel picks I've had that come down to that exact conversation. So we're in for a good one. Here we go.
Really, what it comes down to is, what do you want to fight for, tasters? What is it that's wetting your whistle and you got to have it tomorrow night? That's the question.
How many samples have you had, Fred? I think you got extra samples. I don't know.
Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't.
Maybe your ascot's too tight. I don't know, but there's something going on.
Ooh, I'm getting a lot more caramel from 20 as it sits in the glass.
It is disc jockey voice.
For me, I always fight for delicious. And, you know, I think as much as we love to like embrace tannic and spice and everything, at the end of the day, everybody likes to drink something that they enjoy and it's fun and it tastes good. So
That's pretty fun to say bombastic, Blake. I'm just saying.
Pretty fun to throw out bombastic.
It was fun to hear it.
Dude, like 20, it's kind of a comfort whiskey. And I'm thinking right now, you know, what do I want to be drinking stuck at home for weeks? You know, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's the kind of mood I'm in. Like, it's not I'll be honest, I am not in a one drink a night mood right now. And that's one that I could drink.
You don't want to work for it. It's like, let's have something that embraces and envelops you. And that's what this does to your palate. So.
20 is an every night bourbon. You can truly pour it every night and enjoy it. You don't have to be in any mood. You just have to be in the mood for bourbon and you're going to like it.
And it's also complex. You know, it's not going to disappoint you. It'll keep rewarding you.
Yeah.
I think what Peggy pointed out too, which is certainly important to us because we bottle all of our single barrels at cask strength, is when you're tasting at cask strength, you know, it has, of course, people can add water at home, but you're really looking for a barrel that is truly complete and balanced at cask strength.
Right.
And what's interesting too, which I've seen a lot from doing a lot of the tasting, is, you know, even barrels of lower proof can come across as hotter on the palate. It's just about the way that the whiskey has come together. And I think that's a great kind of rationale for picking too, is, you know, how good it is at cask strength, because obviously in some cases you're tasting barrels maybe at cask strength that are then going to be diluted to whatever proof has been determined by the distillery. But I think in this one, because it's being bottled at cask strength, you know, again, you can dilute yourself, but I think that's an important way of thinking about it, is not what is this like diluted, but like how complete is this whiskey with no water as is.
Really has a lot of harmony.
Yeah.
And Peggy, you're really good at pairing with foods. I mean, this would pair with a lot of foods. Am I right? I mean, because it's
I was literally thinking of like a deep dark chocolate cake with caramel frosting. That's a common person thing. You
can drop one of those off on my front porch tomorrow.
It's going straight to my hips, by the way.
But because of the
we don't see those on camera, Fred. It's okay.
But because of this complexity, it would pair so nicely with so many foods. I'd love personally to have a great steak with this. Just a really nice charred steak, I think would be phenomenal.
Or after dinner with a creme brulee.
If I can just,
or just straight out of the bottle.
Yeah, there's that.
All right, Clay's got the floor real quick.
Sorry, just going back to 13. This, you know, look, I still think the order here is correct that we've kind of fallen around, but 13 is a nice whiskey. These are all really good.
Oh yeah.
You know, and just going back to it, definitely has opened up a little bit, getting a little more complexity. Still like 20 and 19, but Sean, you did well.
Thank you.
13 still has my favorite nose.
Yeah, the nose is great.
Yeah, the nose is good. 13.
I think to Fred's point too, well, obviously we're here to pick one. I think 13, if you had a bottle of that at your house, at your home bar, I think that would be one, like Fred said, on a certain night when you're in the mood for a certain thing, you know, that kind of dusty, a little bit musty, leathery, tobacco-y, it's a real contemplative
Mm-hmm.
bourbon that, you know, you might want to dig into on a certain, like on a rainy night or something, you know?
Yeah, this would pair really well with the barrel aged Drew Estates, you know, cigar.
Yeah.
That tobacco on tobacco kind of approach. Really, I could see that going really well. But you know, really, everyone's sentiment here seems to be 20. You know, is going strong. I'm going to make a case for 19. And the case
Glad
for
I'm not alone in it because I'm
I
sitting here
like
like
19 a lot.
I'm
Yeah.
saying it to myself. I'm
Yeah.
like, I mean, everybody's talking about leather, and I'm just like, I don't own enough leather jackets to be able to get all this different leather smell. So
I've seen you rock a nice leather jacket with some leather pants, I believe was the
Yeah, I was
outfit.
gonna
I
say
saw that
they
too,
weren't
yeah.
they weren't pants, they were chaps, and you damn well know that, okay?
You know the difference.
And he definitely warn us before you ever wear those in front of us.
Peggy, who said I didn't have them on right now?
Joke.
listen, you,
Wait,
you
aren't we
don't
all
want to
wearing
go down Kenny's dark side because, yeah.
What does everyone think about, because this is the one I find
I'm
interesting.
hauling out my leather-bound book here. You know, I have some of those. I think it's good. It's really good. Let's go with that. That's not a bad thing.
If we backed up a second, 19 versus 20, what does everyone think about the nose of each?
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I just poured a little more 19, and I mean, that nose is really good. Yeah, it is a beautiful nose. 20, and I don't know if this is just like me thinking because I've already tasted it, but I do like the nose with a little more fruit in it. But man, everything about 19 I really enjoy until it gets kind of to that finish. But it is kind of like that once in a while drinker, and kind of to Clay's point, like, we're stuck in the house, we want to drink something good. Like that's where 20 for me, if I'm gonna start politicking a little bit, I think that's where 20 holds the cake a little bit. So
yeah, I think 19 actually has more of a nose than 20.
Mhm.
I think I lean towards 20 overall, but I think it has probably the least complex nose. Although that's what's interesting about bourbon. It's not like wine in that way. You know, with
Right.
wine, usually when you nose wine, what you smell is what you get kind of. And with bourbon, it can be the complete opposite. But yeah, I think 19 has a great nose.
So actually between 19 and 20, I really like 19 a lot. It could also be that I'm in the mood for, you know, really in your face type of bourbon right now. But the nose is great. It just draws you in. I think 20, the palate is probably a little more balanced, right? But that finish on 19 keeps just keeps kicking. And
Special.
it
It's
is
special. That's the word you're looking for. Is
maybe special. But here's the deal, right? So when I
Kenny.
think of a charity bottle like this too, though, you know, it can go one of two ways. You can make an argument that you want a really good classic bourbon when you pour it. For me, I want just something a little different, right? I want to think, hey, here's a charity bottle that, you know, the money went to a great cause, right? And it's also really different. And I'm going to pour it for somebody, and they might go, wow, I haven't had this. It's not your classic bourbon. This is it's a little in your face, a little different. This is cool. This is unique. And that's sometimes what draws me in. That's what's drawing
So
me to 19.
you're saying you want circus peanuts, Jordan. That's the tasting note you want. I get it.
By the way, Blake, it didn't come out how you think it sounded.
No.
Yeah. No, that's what he's going for.
Sean, I hate to tell you, I think the answer is you need to bottle 19 and 20. But I will add, because I am the first girl that will step up and say, I love robust, punch me in the face spice.
Yeah.
I would go for 19 any day.
Yeah.
But I tell you, number 20, you know, we're talking about James Beard.
Yeah.
We're talking about the best of the best, right?
Food.
House, the foundation, the chefs that are glorified for being in the association. 20 is mature and finesse.
Yeah. And I'm also thinking about with food, you know, pairing with
Yeah.
food. I just think it would be so great with food, so many foods.
It's
I
really-
like 20 a lot, really a lot.
Look, I love 20. 20 is a beautiful whiskey, but what comes down to it is what 19 does to my palate. It takes a hold of it. Okay, it kind of grabs the tongue, and it
Takes a hold of it.
grabs hold of it. and it gives every single little fiber there, and it's lighting it up, and it tickles the roof of my palate, and then it drops down the jawline like butter. The mouthfeel on 19, yes, I know it's a little bit more tannic than 20, but it's got some of that. It's got some of that complexity to it that those great Stitzel Weller products had to me from between 1950 and 1972, and it has one of those elements from that great distillery that I love, and it's not anything that I can ever say like, oh, that is it. I mean, it's just like you have to taste it, you have to see it, you have to feel it on your palate to understand. And I just think 19 is a must-have, can't miss, complex sipper. And it's and to everyone's point, 20 is absolutely the finesse whiskey. It's absolutely the one you want to drink every single day. 19 is the one I'm pulling up by the fire, and I'm sitting down with my buddies and we're breaking out a cigar or something like that. 19 is the one I want to enjoy with friends. 20 is the one I want to drink by myself. That's my case.
Well, since we're in isolation,
There's no friends.
Yeah, so forget it, Fred.
There's no
We have no
friends.
We have no friends. Fred,
I guess now that you look at that, was a pretty shitty argument, wasn't it? Yeah.
I think you can't go wrong either way. I mean, that's the great thing. And it's not that 13 sucked. I mean, I'm going to make that point again. It's like they all are great. And that's what's fun about these barrel selections is that if you haven't participated in one, it's usually very, the criticisms we're making are very niggling little things. I mean, these are all three really, really, really good bourbons. I guess I don't know. I mean, when you talked about picking something that's different, I guess I agree to the extent. Susan and I have been on various panels with liquor stores. Like if you're picking an Old Forester single barrel, for example, you don't want to pick something that tastes like Old Forester off the shelf, because why would somebody pay for a single barrel that tastes like, pay extra for something that tastes like regular regular Old Forester? But what is regular Pinhook? I mean, I don't know. I'm still voting for 20, I guess is my short argument.
You asked it. I think, Carla, you brought up a bunch of good points. And I think for me, you made a point about wine, which was my background. And it's true, like with whiskey, you don't see the aromatics in the nose as being equal, as important as it is in wine.
It's weird.
But that said, my approach with Pinhook has always been it has to have a great nose as well, right? And then translate to the palate. And I think that 19 has a much better nose than 20. Yeah. I don't even, to me, it's not really close from that standpoint.
So you're pushing 19.
I think the nose on 20 is a little sharp.
Oh, that's interesting, because I thought the nose on 20 was far more appealing than the other two.
I do too.
Yeah,
I do too.
I agree with Susan.
Imagine, Susan, we think alike.
Yeah, well, how did that happen?
For me, 19 has that softer, to me, it has a softer, more butterscotchy nose.
I do want to bring out a comment that we have on the YouTube. And just a reminder for those of you watching this on Twitch, Twitter, or Facebook, in order for us to see your comments, you have to go to YouTube. The link should be in the streaming profile that you're looking at right now. Click on that link and you will see the comments there. Also, while you're on YouTube, click on that very first comment there. You can click on that. That goes to Pinhook's website, where you can fill in your information in order to get one of these barrels. This comment comes from Chris Zaborowski. As you all know, Chris is a very important Louisville retailer. He owns Westport Whiskey and Wine. Just a great human being. He says the foodie.
He delivered booze to my door the other day. Thank you, Chris.
Chris is great.
Personally? Was he there?
Yes, personally.
So he writes, the foodies pick 20, in James Beard's honor, it has to be 20. So that's the thing, though. Whiskey, the people who are buying this, look, I love the generosity. I love the fact that we're all about a charity. But Blake, Kenny, Jordan, Clay, and I, we know this audience. And at the end of the day, they don't give two shits about a charity. They want to know if it's good. And can they get it? Am I right, Blake? Am I wrong about that?
It's 100% true.
So I think we have a very hard task here to select our favorite. And while we all ponder it, I'd like for Kate to come back on and see if we have a good question that she has picked up from one of the chats.
Well, first of all, Sean, everybody wants to know what glass you're drinking out of.
So sorry, guys. My Pinhook Glencairns were stranded in New York when I was there to do a tasting. So someone gave me a gift. Like I said, maybe this is appropriate because I started in the wine business. This is a Zalto glass,
Nice.
which again, very nice that someone gave it to me because they're a little steep. But it's a wine glass. They're beautiful. They're fragile. But yeah, Zalto, they're awesome. Works for
I'm a pretty big fan of those, Sean. So I'm just glad you were tasting out of them because I get a little bit, self-conscious whenever I'm drinking out of mine. So
they're a little, it was like the best, since I didn't have like a proper whiskey glass. I wasn't going to drink out of a rocks glass. So this is my best glass to.
You do consume more when you drink out of a wine glass. My studies have proven
that's a good point. It's much harder to tell how much you're pouring, that's for sure.
I'm actually drinking out of a Breaking Bourbon Glencairn tonight.
Cheers to that, Blake.
Just supporting the cause a little bit, Jordan. You're welcome.
Bourbon women
one of those.
here in glass.
Yeah.
So I also want to point out something I promised to Fred at the beginning, which I'm holding to, which is like, I'm so honored to be able to taste with you all and so thankful to everybody. But when it comes to the barrel pick, I consider myself the tiebreaker. So I'm not putting in a vote unless we go, well, I don't know the total count here. What is it, 9 altogether? Or what are we an even number? But anyway, no matter how it shakes out, I'm only the tiebreaker. So
Sean, I thought, this kind of like whenever I do a barrel pick with my friends, I'm like, well, your guys' vote counts as 1, mine counts as 1,000. So whatever. Sean's gonna ultimately tell us which one
No, you guys are the ones that you have way more experience with this part than I do. So I'm just used to picking pinhook barrels. So.
I'm just going to say that women have 50% more olfactory receptors in our brains. So our votes count 1.5 times.
I am taking that very much into consideration.
Oh, okay, fine. Good.
Now, what do you think between
we got through the whole show before you had to drop that little number on us all?
Yeah, well, I was trying to resist, but there it is. This was important.
All right, Kate, do we have any other questions that you that are burning and we should answer?
Yes, people want to know what will happen with the other 2 barrels that are not chosen tonight. And somebody has a suggestion of blending 19 and 20 together and seeing how that tastes.
I was going to do that afterwards. So.
I think you'd have the makings of a really cool blend here, possibly with all 3. I mean, this is what's so fun about what we get to do is playing around with not just picking single barrels, but tasting a bunch of barrels and figuring out which ones go together is really fun. It's like,
yeah, but we would need more whiskey, Sean.
No, I know.
Yeah. Send it.
So are we still doing, I guess a question for Fred, are we still doing live donations with everything?
Well, so this has not been a live donation drive. This has been like to drive people to the Pinhook site, but we do have you can donate to the James Beard Foundation, and if anyone has donated money into my super chat on YouTube, I will turn that over directly to James Beard. I will tell you that I have had some problems with YouTube. In getting them to relinquish their 30% take on monies, but I'm hopeful that for my charity efforts that they will do that. But eventually it will happen. But they don't actually have any humans in their office right now. That everything's ran by AI, so it's a little different.
So if we did something where I'll give out a 1-ounce sample of all 3 for a random person who donates, say maybe $20. Could we do that while we're all kind of
that, Blake? You can go higher
okay. $50.
50. Come on.
50.
Yeah.
For someone who donates 50, we'll give I'll do a randomizer and send out 1 ounce samples of all 3 different different things we tasted tonight.
Yeah.
And get that started. Will it go directly to the Fred Minnick Foundation, or are we talking James?
No, it would go to Beard, but I would say that
go directly to Beard.
Yeah, I would like take it. So what it would do is it would come into YouTube, and then I would send it over to Beard. But again, like I did not set this up as a fundraiser on the super chat. So and even if I did, I've had some problems with YouTube, so they do take a 30% cut. So what I would say is,
just put your Venmo account up there and just let the money start rolling in.
The Venmo straight. Venmo straight.
It is, and plus you've got somebody here that can cook the books. Blake's a great financial person.
I see you looking at me, Kenny. I do not cook books for people.
You just do it for me. Is that what it is?
For friends.
That's what every book cooker ever said.
Yeah, I'm just messing.
It's a good time to be a book cooker. All right, so I tell you what, anything like so if anyone donates, so you want to say $50?
$50. Let's do 50.
Anybody who donates $50 or more on my super chat on YouTube, but you have to go to the YouTube. You'll find the link in on Facebook and Twitter and Twitch. If you donate $50, that money will go to the James Beard Foundation, and Blake will send you.
Well, not everyone, because I only have so much, but I'll do a randomizer of one person, and I'll send them 1 ounce sample of each.
Okay. So
and we should have some Ride On coming this week, so they'll get a bottle of that as well from Pinhook.
Peggy would do that, but she drank it all. So
there's always that.
Comes to my house, I drink it. I do not give it away.
And I'll tell you that her godson takes right after her. So you all make those donations, and you'll be in a randomizer that Blake will take bribes from you later to send you the whiskey you desire. So
it's the first one that came in. Congratulations, Jeff Bratcher.
So
Thank you so much.
Fred, are we going to be voting now on our pick?
Well, I want to see if Kate had another question to bring in as we try
Do
to.
you have another question asking if the panel can take their guesses and talk through which they think of the barrels is the highest proof?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Do we know the answer? Do we?
No, definitely
not.
not.
Say it, and I don't think it's going to matter either. It's not going to go back and be like, oh, we got to proof all 3 of these now. Yeah, so.
John, I think they were all. I didn't think you knew all of them, right?
I don't know any of them. Like I was saying, based on what I've seen, I would think 114 to 118 is kind of the range. And
there's one that I think is hitting about 120.
My thought was that 13 would be the highest.
Oh, I would guess that too.
Yeah, I'd go with that.
I can't tell you what it is, but
13's pretty high.
Yeah.
The what now?
It can be tricky though, because some lower proof things can be spicier. So I don't know.
True.
Yeah, I mean they're not really that far apart. Whatever they are, I mean there might be 5 points proof differential, but
probably not even that.
I don't think
really
it's much.
close.
I think it's pretty close. So that's not going to be an easy one to pick the winner on. Kate, any other good questions there you got for us?
Yes, you have another question for Sean. What about these particular barrels prompted you to purchase them from the original lot? From MGP, the question is from Wilson Torres.
That's a really good question. So I don't know there are obviously plenty of folks, plenty of brands that have bought barrels from MGP, many barrels over the years. Our experience buying from MGP was you get one representative sample. So granted, especially when we bought our first barrels, we're still not anyone special, but we definitely were not special back then. So I'm sure they pull a sample from a very good barrel and they send that to you and they say, this is what your barrels taste like. And so, yeah, we got essentially one sample. And that's been our experience, to be honest, whether it doesn't matter whether you're buying 20 barrels or 200 barrels. And again, I'm sure that might be different for some bigger companies, but I think what we've been lucky to find and what these barrels display, and like I said, the fact that I think all three of these are really good whiskeys in their own right. There's certainly nothing here, and I think we've all come across barrels of whiskey that are simply not good that we really wouldn't want to drink. I think clearly there are two of these that everyone really loves, and even with 13, maybe some people have different thoughts on it, but is a kind of cool whiskey in its own right. It's cool that all three of them are quite good. And like I said, that's at random, right? We bought the 20 barrels. We didn't get to taste through the barrels to pick which ones we wanted. And then the fact that these are the three remaining is also rather random as well. So I think it is a testament to the fact that like, and Fred, I saw a thing he was doing recently where he pointed this out, like, yes, MGP can be tricky and you need to know what you're doing in order to blend barrels together. But I think tonight is just a matter of really nice dumb luck where we've got three barrels and they're all really good.
Well, it's that time. I think, Kate, would you do me the honors of actually doing the voting, or not the voting, but counting the votes?
Absolutely.
Since I obviously have a favorite in this, I don't want to let my bias impact my counting. So,
How do you get a vote anyway, Fred?
what's that?
Yeah, how are we doing this?
Get a vote anyway.
Kate is going to announce the barrel number, and then we are going to basically raise our hands. There's not an ability to vote within Zoom.
This isn't technology. This is just raising your hand. Okay.
Basically, raising your hand.
Okay, I can do that.
Old school, much like the techniques.
Sometimes you got to go backwards to go forwards.
Exactly.
Okay, raise of hand for who is for barrel 13.
That was
easy. Okay, barrel 19.
Come on, don't let the hand stop. Keep them going.
Got that with this, bro.
Going. Raise
No.
I
Hand up, Blake? Was that an ear touch? Is that like a bid?
I saw that hand.
Keep the hand up.
Okay.
Keep the hand up. Don't let it down.
Going, and barrel 20.
I can live with
10 hands. By my count.
Okay.
Blake's Wi-Fi just dropped out, so that vote's gone.
I saw that. So barrel 20 has the consensus.
Yay.
Hey!
5-3 against barrel 19.
Well, you know what?
That's the one I repoured, by the way.
It's a
Well, I know I was looking at, I have like this much left of barrel 13 and this much left of barrel 9. And I have almost nothing left to 20. So if that shows you anything.
Is that from the full sample bottle? Because that's a
no,
not
the whole bottle. Just what I poured.
That's a lot of drinking.
Yeah, I drank the whole bottle. No.
Yeah. Here's my bottle of 20. Boy.
No, I'm gonna sell the rest of it on eBay. No, I didn't say that.
Why not?
Well, that just shows you drink a lot. That doesn't prove anything.
Yeah. Big sample.
Oh, here's the twist of the evening. Sean, you are now going to pick up both of those barrels, right?
Yes.
Yes. Well, we've got we asked earlier, will we make a home for these? And I think absolutely. I think the goal at this point is to use all three of these barrels, for something good. So, we'll stick to the one that we're picking tonight, specifically for James Beard. And I think as things continue to unfold, I think we'll have a pretty good idea of, other organizations and groups that could benefit from one of these single barrels.
And here's the other thing, that after that we had made this announcement, we kind of put this together in the last couple of weeks. I have had some other distillers reach out to me saying that they would donate a barrel for a similar cause.
Right.
And so I think what we may have actually started something here that is special. and we can, I believe, I really do, from the bottom of my heart, I believe that we are a community. I believe that bourbon drinkers and whiskey fans, I think we're all a part of like a special community in which we can gather together and sip some whiskey. Now, in the old days, it would be in the parking lot of the Hampton Inn in Bardstown during Kentucky Bourbon Festival. But nowadays, it's on Zoom, and it does not matter where we are. We can still have a good time with our friends, and I'm thankful that Sean, that you have decided to donate these 2 barrels. That's just awesome, man. That's just awesome.
Sean, Mark Erickson in the chat brought up a good point. This barrel has to have a horse name. So do we have something in mind?
Yeah, absolutely. So
okay.
So the idea, the way we do our Pinhook barrels is that a certain lot of barrels is connected to the horse that was released at the time when they were all that same age. So Bourbon Courage was our first horse. That was the first ever release of Pinhook. So this will be, and that's what's going to make it such a cool limited bottling. This will be in essence like a reissue of Bourbon Courage, our first ever bottling, but instead of at 90 proof, at cask strength, and instead of a blend as a single barrel. So I think that is something, and I don't mean to be, I'm not the one to say how, special that is in the bourbon universe. We're a young company, and, we're just trying to put out a good product, but hopefully that's something that will be meaningful in the future as we continue to grow, that, this is one of the original barrels that we bought back in 2011, and it's connected to this original release. And as I mentioned before, but just to reiterate it, we happen to have a few or enough of those original bottles that were discontinued. The bottle shape, which anyone who's familiar with Pinhook, that original bottle was like a shorter bottle with this more like sloped shoulder with black wax and these letterpress labels. So we're going to go back to that original letterpress label, which has to be hand labeled because it can't go through a machine roller, hand numbered. And so it truly is this very unique, one-off, which again, hopefully that will compel people to pay, and as I think Blake pointed out, it's not about gouging. It's about this idea that, like, can we say that this is special enough? And there's some folks out there that love bourbon and want to do something nice, and at the same time get a little piece of bourbon history, and probably pay more than what one of us would normally pay for 12-year-old MGP bourbon, for a good cause.
This is, not only is this a special, just everything we've done tonight, but if you think about it, this is a bourbon lover's chance to own a piece of Pinhook history, right? Which does not happen. Think of all the brands out there. If you could go back and say, hey, I have a piece of, think of any old distillery, Maker's Mark, Heaven Hill, Buffalo Trace, right? Why wouldn't you want to have an opportunity to say, hey, look, I own a piece of history of that distillery. And now is your chance to own a piece of history of Pinhook, which is beyond super cool and beyond super special. So, everyone needs to keep that in mind, which is just a super rare opportunity. And these do not come along too often. So this is really cool.
And another thing, Susan, Clay, Carla, we're all historians in some way, shape, or form in this space. Guys, I think this is the first major virtual barrel pick.
Well, it's terrific, and it's great. And I love meeting people I haven't met before online, whose work I know, including Clay. And this is great. This is fabulous. What a great time.
Yeah, this
Thank
is a
you,
lot
Fred,
of fun.
for putting this together.
And I hope, like Fred said, there are other folks out there who probably have some cool barrels sitting around. We're all sitting around. So I hope this, no pressure, but I hope it inspires some other folks to, look around at their barrel inventory and see if we can't keep something going around some fun virtual picks to help out the service industry.
Yeah, I think this is great because I think, the whole, especially here in Kentucky, the bourbon industry has such a history of supporting communities and giving back.
Yeah.
And I think this, it's not something new that we're doing here. It's maybe a new format, but I just, I think it's awesome, and thank you so much, Sean, for doing this.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, here.
I wanna take the moment to say, like, just one more time that we are a community, and it does not matter where we are from or our circumstance. We are a community in the whiskey world that, this is a tough time. This is a tough time, but we cannot let this get us down, because here's the thing, it's like this right here, that is meant for socializing. That's meant for socializing. We are meant as a species to be together. You take a human away from people, and they don't do very well. And so we are a gregarious species. And while we cannot be in the same room together necessarily, we can be here on Zooms or chats or Facebooks or whatever. And let us for a moment drop the anger, drop the pin of like wanting to like call someone out on something that doesn't even matter. Let us just drop that for a moment, and let us focus back on the community that was built by the likes of Parker Beam and Booker No and all these incredible distillers like Elmer T. Lee from years past. This is our moment to like reclaim of just getting together, like how it all started as a bourbon community, having a sip. It's how it all started. And as we are about to close tonight, I want to give everybody that's taken the time here tonight to taste with me a moment to say why people should be donating to the James Beard Foundation and why they best be going to that Pinhook website and signing up, because this whiskey is pretty good. I want to start with my boy Clay.
I mean, all I'd say is if you like whiskey, you have definitely enjoyed whiskey because of a bartender or a server or just someone in the hospitality industry. And this is your chance to give back, because those are the people who, they're some of the people who are hurting the most right now. And this is your chance.
Carla.
Yeah, I mean, it's a chance to give back. It's a chance to own a piece of history, really, which is awesome. And these chances don't come along that often, and someday we'll be back to normal, and we'll want to go back to our local bar and hang out with our friends and enjoy some bourbon together. And if we don't do things like this now, our local bar may not be there when this is over. So I think that's why it's really important to support our local restaurants and bars.
Kenny.
Yeah, I think to just kind of say what Carla was saying, when we look at really what's going on right now, we see that the industries that are getting hit the worst, and it's the ones that we would all frequent on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And, if you're a 7 night kind of a week person, Mondays and Tuesdays as well. It's, and you look through and you see exactly like what these restaurants and what these bars are currently doing to try to survive, whether they're starting to sell off whiskey collections and they're trying to get their menus digitized so everybody can order takeout. And, as we all try to support this, frankly, it's still marginally of what they're able to do beforehand in regards of sales and what they can do to keep their doors open. And so everything that we can do as a community, whether you eat at that restaurant one time a year, you eat at it every single weekend, it's something that we can do to help the community that's out there, the people that are in need of it the most, because, we need to make sure that the people that are out there on the, the front lines, making our cocktails, making our drinks and our food and everything like that, the ones that really, we talk about bourbon all the time. We have a great time with doing it, but they're the ones that are actually also educating people about bourbon. All those newbies that come in that would talk to people at the bars, they're the ones doing it. They're not really listening to bourbon podcasts, reading a bunch of bourbon books right away, but they're the people that really kind of give them that first little bait to get them hooked on this bourbon trail. So definitely want to go and help those people out in the industry.
And one guy that does a lot of championing bourbon, Blake.
Yeah, it's just, first off, just Thanks for having me. This has been a lot of fun. So we kind of talk about, we're hyping this thing up a little bit, but all in all, it's for a good cause. So to kind of go back to what everyone was saying about the people who are kind of on the front lines, and there's all kinds of bailouts and everything, but the restaurant industry, the bar industry, and a lot of these distilleries that rely on the tasting rooms and all that are hit the hardest by this by far. So it's great that we can do something fun like this. Just thank you all for having me. Glad to raise money for a good cause and really enjoyed it.
And Susan, you and I, we lost. When I think of the restaurant industry, I think of our good friend who passed away a couple of years ago, Joy Perini.
Yes.
And and of course Dean Corbett. And I think of all the great restaurateurs we've known in our lifetime.
Indeed.
What does this mean? What does this kind of fundraiser mean to people?
Well, it's amazing because Joanna and I would go to Jack's every Tuesday night after our orchestra rehearsal. And of course, there are no orchestra rehearsals because the university is closed. And we bought a gift certificate from the restaurant, and we are crossing our fingers we'll use it again. And it's just devastating that the places that are our regular places that we love to go, it's just so hard to think about this right now. And the people there who've looked after us for years and who know how to mix our drinks, and in fact, they almost don't even have to take our orders. We walk in the bar and they know what we want. And I think all of us have those sort of places, and we're just keeping our fingers crossed that we'll be able to go there again and they'll still be there for us. And we're doing our best to support our local places by trying to buy gift cards and patronize takeout and do what we can. So
yeah,
fingers crossed for all of them.
Carla, my family, we just bought Easter dinner from Bourbon's Bistro.
Ooh, so did we.
Yeah.
Did you really?
Fried chicken, it was great.
Oh, that's what we got. Yeah. I think about like all the restaurants like that are trying to find innovative ways to like stick out. And Carla, do I still have Carla?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay.
In her rick house.
Yes, I'm still in my rick house.
She wasn't showing up there, so I concerned. But so Carla, you've always been very close to the Louisville restaurant community. Mm-hmm. What does this, a fundraiser like this, with the James Beard, what does that mean to, in your opinion, to like restaurateurs?
Well, I mean, Louisville, for a city its size, is so known for independent restaurants. And I think all of us are really concerned about what will happen on the other side of this, how many of them will survive. I mean, we're doing our part too. We're trying to order takeout and keep our favorites in business. But I think just the fact that people are holding these kinds of fundraisers and supporting them, I think, just that fact, aside from the money that's raised, is really important to let them know that we're out here and we do appreciate what they do. We ordered takeout the other day, and I gave a big tip to the driver, who texted me back and said, "Hey, I lost my job. This is what I'm doing to replace my income. Thanks for the tip." So, wow. It's tough out there for a lot of these folks. And selfishly, I want my favorite restaurants to still be open when this is over. So, but I think it means a lot to know that the public is behind them. I think, aside from the money that's raised, it's great to let them know we realize the struggles they're going through, and we really want to make sure they're there when we come out on the other side of this.
Yeah. Well, Peggy, we've been to a few restaurants together, and I cannot imagine a scenario in the next 10 years when we're not at those restaurants again with Julian, my boy, your godson.
I'll tell you, Fred, thank you for doing this tonight. It's just really simple for me. Being in the bourbon industry, it doesn't surprise me that we're doing what we're doing tonight, because this is how we roll. This is the industry we're in with the camaraderie, and we help people and we support people. But why it's really simple to donate and to give our time and energy to this type of thing is because the hospitality and food industry, they've been serving us all our lives, and now it's time to serve them.
Right. And you're also like, I mean, there's the hospitality industry is so much deeper than just like restaurants. I mean, we're also looking at visitor centers and everything with the distillery.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You're very connected to the visitor center scene. You know, I mean, a lot of changes ahead.
Well, remember too, they're serving food. They now have restaurants. They, the hotels have restaurants, so I lump it all together almost, in hospitality umbrella, because they're all hurting, and everything's so uncertain right now. And so, the only thing we can do is what's right in front of us, and what's right in front of us is to do things like this,
Yeah.
to help each other. Because it'll come back. And, I don't think anybody, I was talking to somebody the other day, I don't think anyone will ever take for granted anymore going to their favorite restaurant.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I mean, that's one of my simple pleasures that I miss the most, is just going out to a great dinner. I've had dinner with most of you on the screen, and just be able to talk about the food and what we're drinking. And it's something I really miss more than I ever could imagine.
Now, Jordan, let's go into your hood for a moment, and let's take a look at the place that when we come out on the other side, what's the restaurant you can't wait to go to?
There's so many. The food scene in Pittsburgh is just phenomenal, Fred, right? And there's a few local neighborhood restaurants that just mean the world to me. And I think, the whole point we're doing this, no matter what the local restaurant that everyone at home enjoys, right? Think of any experience you've had at a bar or restaurant. This is a generous industry, right? The time a server, a restaurant owner, a bartender, a bar owner has given you a sample of bourbon, right? Or to try a cocktail or something like that, just so you could try it, right? Well, now's our time to be generous to them, right? Now's our time for all of us to dig deep, open up our wallets, give back to those folks who have given to us so many times without asking for anything in return, right? And now's the time for us to really prop them up, because they're going to be there waiting for us, hopefully, when we come out of this, and we need to do our part to make sure that they are. So that's why it's super important that everyone, take the time, register on Pinhook's website to get more details, learn how to possibly get a bottle of this, right? All these contributions tonight in the chat, they all help out, right? To all those folks who have helped you out in the past. And it's just super special to be part of something like this.
Yeah, as a reminder, if you do drop a $50 coin in the super chat on YouTube right now, you will be entered for a chance from Blake at Bourbonr to get the samples that we've had tonight, or whatever he has left over. Or so, and that money is going to go to James Beard in this foundation. And I want to go to Sean here. We're going to close this out here in a minute. If you haven't been there yet, make sure you go to Pinhook's website. You can find that link on the comment section of the YouTube stream right now. If you're watching us on Twitch or Twitter or Facebook, you have to go to the YouTube to find that link. It's a Pinhook, but basically you could go to the Pinhook website too and find it. And I'm going to bring it back home to Sean and ask the simple question: why did you choose James Beard?
It's a great question, and I think everyone so eloquently talked about the importance of restaurant, and you talked about the importance of community. And I was in the restaurant business for 15 years, and I can tell you, with there may be a few exceptions here and there, but you don't get into the restaurant business to make money, right? You get into the restaurant business because you have a passion for something. You have a passion for a certain style of food. You have a passion for bourbon. You have a passion for wine, and you want to create this amazing experience and then ultimately become a community gathering place where you share that passion with everybody. And I think the James Beard Foundation, what they're trying to do is focus on independent restaurants, and I care about all restaurants. My wife has an independent restaurant. I owned and operated independent restaurants. So many of my friends work in independent restaurants, also own independent restaurants. And, you know, again, as everyone already really nicely said, the folks who are there are also there because they care about sharing great experiences and being a community gathering place. And it really is our time to give back, to look at them. And, you know, so many folks are employed in these restaurants, and I think they're the most vulnerable, to be honest. You know, the big restaurants, you know, the corporately held restaurants, and again, great respect for them and what they do. But you know, per usual, and I had this experience as a restaurant owner. You can say small businesses are the backbone of America, you know, and that's a cliche that gets said time and time again. But as a small business owner, I can tell you, particularly as a small business restaurant owner, I can tell you there are a lot of times where you don't feel that way, and you don't feel like anyone's looking out for you. You know, when these very difficult circumstances arise. And I think this is a time to really look at how important independent restaurants are to our community, and to do something to give back.
So there you have it, folks. Tonight you have been watching a tasting of barrels that will be going to benefit the James Beard Foundation, and it's been amazing. It's actually been a little bit emotional at points. There wasn't much of there was a little bit of a fight for who was going to pick what barrel was going to win, but Kenny and I lost, and Jordan, he put in a good fight as well, but
tried.
3 votes don't beat 5.
But we picked a fantastic barrel. Fantastic barrel came out on top.
And so, but 20, that barrel 20, it like if I were going to put it in my whiskeys of the year contenders, which is coming out soon, by the way, that would be in there. So 20 and 19 would both be in that kind of like mega level, awesome whiskey of the year kind of contender. And listen, this whiskey, when you get it, you're getting a piece of history. You're getting like the first like prominent virtual tasting barrel pick in bourbon history, and you're getting like the old bottle of Pinhook, and you're getting friggin' 12-year-old MGP whiskey. Go Google, go look.
I'm putting my ascot back on.
Oh. And the most important part is Susan Riegler wore an ascot. So
just saying.
So Kate, I'll bring you in to see if we have any last questions before we head on out.
That was actually it. The last question we had was why James Beard Foundation, which you answered.
Wonderful. By the way, nice shirt. Am I right, everybody? Kate's wearing a really cool shirt.
Thank you.
Nice. Very nice.
Am I right?
Excellent.
I love polka dots.
Thank you very much.
All right, everybody. Well, that's going to do it here. Make sure you're following everybody on this feed. You got Peggy No Stevens, Blake from Bourbonr, Clay Risen, you know, Google him. Jordan from Breaking Bourbon, Kenny, my boy from Bourbon Pursuit, Susan Riegler, who's written a lot of books, and of course, Carla Carlton, who's also written a lot of books and the managing editor of Bourbon Plus. So make sure you give everybody a follow. These are all people who care about bourbon, the future of bourbon. And it's not just that our livelihoods are connected to it. It's that we genuinely care. This is like family to us. No one here is getting paid tonight. Everybody donated their time. Pinhook is donating really, really expensive barrels. Like they could put this out on the open market and probably make a whole hell of a lot more. And the reason why I tell you that is because bourbon, as I said earlier, is a community. And in my opinion, the community, for me, it starts right here with these people. Every one of these people, I would go to bat for. I would go to war for. They're great human beings. And they did this tonight in hopes that you all would appreciate it, in the hopes that you all would take the time to go and donate to the James Beard Foundation, as well as signing up on Pinhook's website to see if you can get one of these barrels, because let me tell you, if you get one of these bottles, you got a special whiskey you can sip on for the rest of your life. It is absolutely delicious. So as we close out, be safe, be kind to one another, and remember, vodka sucks unless it's being used for hand sanitizer. Cheers, everybody. Good night.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you, Fred.